Hi, I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of Washington, and today we are continuing with our 2024 legislative preview video series. And today I'm going to talk to you about House Bill 1832. This bill is a pay per mile charge that would start off being a voluntary program for people who own electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles, where they would pay a 2.5 per mile charge. This would waive some of the other registration fees, but essentially what this bill is aimed to do is to make up for a loss in revenue on the gas tax because so many people are buying EVs and hybrid vehicles. So the way that the current legislation, proposed legislation reads is that this is a voluntary program, but we know with most legislation, anything that starts off as voluntary is going to become mandatory. And there is a clause in here that this would be mandatory in the year 2030. And eventually, the idea here is that this 2.5 cent pay per mile charge would be for all vehicle owners. So whether you drive a gas vehicle or an electric vehicle, you would still have to pay this 2.5 per mile charge, and eventually it would do away with that gas tax. So it's not saving you any money. It's just kind of a replacement. And as we know, with a state like Washington that likes to really tax its citizens heavily, this 2.5 cents could become 3 cents, could become 3.5 cents. So we're not really sure about that. One of the other drawbacks of this piece of legislation that Washington Policy Center noted, and I'm going to have a link to their article on this in the comments or section of the video, this cap would be especially problematic in the context of equity. Most electric vehicles in the state are registered in Western Washington in wealthy zip codes. This bill is not a good approach to implementing the RUC policy, that's the road usage charge policy in Washington state, and would create a significant funding and equity problem. And so this is a great way to use the left's argument of equity. I mean, everything for them is about equity. And there is a huge equity component to this, which is something that we will be pointing out if they bring this up in the 2024 session. Now, we are fairly confident that they will bring this back to committee again in 2024 because there was a bill with a different bill number. I think it was House Bill 2026 in the 2022 legislative session that did not pass. And so because of the biennium, 2023 starts fresh again. So they had to drop a whole new bill, but the bills are identical, I believe identical. And so we're pretty certain that they are insistent upon getting this to pass. Another issue with this bill is, and Representative Jim Walsh brought this up in the committee hearing. He asked the question of would the 18th Amendment apply to this legislation where the revenues collected from this pay per mile tax would only be able to be used on roadways. And so that is not in the current legislation. It sounds like if it goes back into committee, that is something that Representative Walsh and probably others on the Transportation Committee would try to add an amendment for that. Whether the Democrats would take that up or not, it remains to be seen. But the other aspect of this bill that concerns us and concerns a lot of our followers and citizens in Washington, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, is the data privacy of this. A lot of people have an issue with the state or the government, the federal government or state level, tracking their mileage. And how does that get reported? Who's in charge of the data? How is privacy protected? I mean, we know with the Employment Security Department, there was a huge data breach. So citizens in Washington state don't exactly have the most confidence in Washington government to protect their privacy. So this bill, House Bill 1832, is one that we are going to be watching closely. We will keep you up to date as the session gets started on January 8th as to if this bill is moving. And then once it starts moving, what you can do as a citizen to make your voice heard and let the lawmakers know how you feel about this bill. So be sure to bookmark our legislative action Center. I've got a link to that in the comments as well. Also, be sure to subscribe to our Substack. That's the best way to get the latest up-to-date information, and follow us on socials. And I would encourage you to subscribe to our Substack, become a paid subscriber to our Substack. That really supports the work that we do. You can also kick in $10 or whatever to our donation page over on Give, Send, Go. And I'll have all those links for you in the comments. Your donation or membership helps to support the work that we do so that we can continue the fight for you in Washington State and beyond.